China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi says his country is a source of stability in international affairs, in contrast to the United States. He told journalists in Beijing that big countries should not bully the weak and that power politics were not conducive to a stable world. Wang said China would continue to take countermeasures against what he called arbitrary US tariffs, but added there was still space for cooperation. Let's talk to our correspondent Jen Copestake, who's been watching that press conference in Beijing. Jen, strong comments from Wang Yi, particularly aimed at the United States.
Yes, that's right, Jamie. Such strong comments there towards the United States. There was such a lot of interest in the room today to ask questions about the US and China relationship. Foreign Minister Wang Yi was asked about US President Donald Trump's America First doctrine specifically, and he said no country should put their interests first above any others. He said there are over 190 countries in the world, and if everybody did that, especially the big countries, we would simply return to the law of the jungle. Now, he said big countries had to fulfill their responsibilities to the international community, and he said they cannot put selfish interests above principles. So he also said that any country shouldn't fantasize that it can suppress China and maintain good relations at the same time. And he called some of the rhetoric from the United States two-faced acts, which are not good for the stability of bilateral relations or building mutual trust. Wang Yi spoke strongly against America's accusations on China regarding the drug fentanyl, saying the abuse crisis is a problem that needs to be resolved internally in the United States. Let's take a listen.
China always takes resolute measures against drug trafficking and manufacturing. China has the world's toughest and most comprehensive counter-narcotics policies. We have assisted the U.S. on humanitarian grounds. The U.S. should not repay goodwill with hostility or impose arbitrary tariffs on Chinese products.
The foreign minister continued by saying that America needed to go over what actually happened and what it achieved by threatening others, imposing tariffs, and asked, has this strategy led to a strengthening of the country's manufacturing output? Has it made its citizens happier? Has it made the American economy more competitive?
United States to one side for a moment and talk about Europe. What did Wang Yi say specifically in terms of China's relations with Europe?
Yes, a journalist asked a question about the long-running commercial tensions between China and the EU. These include tariffs imposed on Chinese electric vehicles to Europe and whether this would negatively affect China's relationship with the EU. Now, Wang Yi answered by saying that this was a critical year, a very important year, as it's the 50th anniversary of the China-EU official diplomatic relations. So he said that China remains confident in Europe and believes that Europe will be a trustworthy partner, and that the two sides will have the capacity and the wisdom to overcome any issues like this with the tariffs, any pending issues. And he was looking forward to another 50 years of a healthy relationship between the EU and China. He highlighted the amount of bilateral trade that has taken place between China and the EU over the last 50 years. He said this has expanded over 5 decades from $2.4 billion US dollars to $780 billion. And he said jointly the EU and China make up 1/3 of the world's economy, and said there was a great strategic value in having a healthy and stable relationship between the EU and China. He said that will lift up both sides and create a brighter world.
Jen, thank you for that. Our correspondent Jen Copestake in Beijing.